Hello and welcome to Twin Bill, the show where two twins fit the bill for movie critics. So that's peace sign. Peace out. We out of here. All right. And I can do this for
No.
human legs.
Okay,
Nothing else.
cut out.
No, nothing. All right. Before we get started today's movie, it's a doozy. Uh, do seven things. And since we're talking about Phantom Empire, Marcus, name seven movies that feature a ghost.
Ghostbusters.
One,
Ghostbusters 2.
two,
The Conjuring.
three,
Ghost.
four,
Casper. The Friendly Ghost.
five,
Uh, Holy moly. House.
six,
House 2.
seven. You get bonus points because there's also Houseu, the Japanese movie called House that's not related to the American one.
I don't deserve those bonus points.
I speak a little louder. All right, my turn. Give me something fun based on the word empire.
Fine. And in the spirit of how often do you think of the Roman Empire, name your seven favorite empires in history.
The Galactic Empire from the Star Wars universe.
It's one.
That show I would never watch, but the African American Empire on the Fox television network.
Two.
Empire State of Mind, a song I don't like that much by Jay-Z.
You're really killing us saying things you don't like. Three.
I don't want to talk getting these. Fine. The Mayan Empire seems reasonably nice for an empire.
Four.
Aztecs, just because the wackiness.
Five.
Spanish, because they conquered the Aztecs and they deserved recognition.
I like a dark. Six.
Let me history. And then I don't like Holy Roman Empire. Screw you, ancient Roman Empire.
Seven.
These
These
are
are
seven
seven
things.
things. These are seven things.
All right. We're gonna talk about seven things. There's barely seven characters in this movie we're gonna talk about. Probably a little more, but whatever.
How big is the posse? There's more than seven characters total because there's like six hideous cave woman man things. And
Yeah, those extras with ugly things on their heads, and Michelle Bauer.
well, I guess they're not cave women because the
Cave
cave women
man.
appear later. They're cannibals.
Anyway, to answer your question directly, before because I'm going to get well into this cast of characters and some in my outline here, but you have Court, his psychic woman. I was gonna do this later in the thing. I don't even, you throw my whole thing off.
Hey.
The rich woman, and then I guess you count Jeffrey Combs and the vaguely gay scientist. So I think that is, was that five?
That's yes.
All right, now let's talk about this movie. So this movie came out in 1987, although some sources list it as 1988. Because who cares about the Phantom Empire? No one. All right. No critics on Rotten Tomatoes, but it has a 25% score, which seems a little generous, but I agree with the general negativity involved.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a quote unquote fun game for you. So this movie is directed by Olen Ray, who I know best for making what I don't know what you call it. It's like movies where it's like there's a plot, but the plot involves women taking their tops off,
Skinemax type stuff. Yeah.
or campy science fiction movies, stuff like that. But quote unquote more prestigious films that IMDb lists as his most famous films. So I will briefly describe a movie to you, and you, on a scale of 1 out of 10, you tell me how excited you are to go watch it right after this.
It's directed by Fred Olen Ray, so
Yes, I'm sure you'll be very excited. All right, can't yeah. Hatfields and McCoy's Bad Blood, but there's gunfights that are poorly rendered, starring Lawnmower Man, Jeff Fahey, and Christian Slater. I'm excited to watch that.
you know, all these are kind of so bad it's good kind of thing, but it might be a decent action movie. I'll say seven.
All right. Holiday Road Trip, a Hallmark Hall of Fame Christmas-style movie starring George Hamilton, Shelley Long, and a dog who was credited on the poster as Dog, Augie.
Dog Augie?
I don't know if it's Augie the dog and they just try to do a cute last name thing or...
It's gotta be Augie the dog. Family movie with George Hamilton 2.
Wow, I would flip those scores. George Hamilton is a treat, and I'm sure the dog is cute. And then this movie is famous enough to almost be on our show at some point. Probably not, but Sniper Special Ops starring WWE Hall of Famer Rob Van Dam and everyone's favorite Steven Seagal.
Oh boy. 10 out of 10 just for the so bad it's good potential.
But Steven Seagal didn't do a second take of his live readings.
And Rob Van Dam snipes someone and he goes, it's not that guy won't be bothering us anymore, am I right?
Rob Van Dam seems like a nice guy. Like he does interviews well, and he arguably the greatest wrestler in WWE
Very athletic,
ECW
yes.
history. So, yeah. So
I don't want to see him act in movies, like serious movies.
what?
Don't want to see Rob Van Dam act in serious movies.
You want to see that? I was gonna do a joke, but that movie where Hannibal Lecter plays a butler who regrets not getting married. That
You want Rob Van Dam to play that?
yeah, I was gonna marry her, but I couldn't do it. Where's the pot? All right, like great impression.
Howard's End?
Howard's End, yeah. Oh, wait, no, Howard's End's different.
Oh, well then I don't
We're on the
know.
right track. They're British movies with Ivory Merchant. Ivory Merchant. Why are we? I bet so many people are expecting Ivory Merchant to come up
Yeah, and
extensively.
Rob Van Dam's ideal role.
But also for Fred Olen Ray and Ivory Merchant, like Blood and Water. All right. So this movie is called The Phantom Empire. Fun fact: there's an older movie that's probably much better called The Phantom Empire. It was a early black and white serial starring the singing cowboy Gene Autry, who discovers Shangri-La. Do you remember the name of the author or the novel that Shangri-La was invented in?
It's not him, but the name James Agee's popping in my head, so
It is a James. So
just give it to me. I don't know. Not gonna
yeah,
get
it's
it.
James Hilton wrote a book called Lost Horizon, which is also much better in this movie, but that's not shocking. So here's the thing. I watched this movie before I found out about the Gene Autry things, and I was like, oh, that's weird. This unrelated Fred Olen Ray thing is the same name as the Gene Autry movie, but apparently Fred Olen Ray is a kind of like a comparison I'm going to bring up in a second. Very obsessive about classic Hollywood, and he originally foresaw this Phantom Empire to be a direct remake of the Gene Autry Phantom Empire, which falls apart pretty quickly because it's not like Shangri-La, and it's not like much of anything because it's a cheap science fiction movie. And the reason I said comparison I'm going to bring it up right now.
What?
Ed Wood, or Ed Wood Jr., as his family would call him. I think there's a lot of commonalities between this movie and an Ed Wood movie.
Yeah.
The first one is that the plot doesn't make a lot of sense, and the director seems fine with it. Like, could you explain what Plan 9 from Outer Space is? What the plan was?
No. Well, I could probably do better if I watched it again very recently, but
I mean,
and when you look back, I watched it years ago, and it's a blur of aliens chasing humans around.
they're technically zombies reanimated by aliens, I think.
That's the plan then, is to use zombies to kill humans?
Yeah, it's not exactly clear. There's a lot of shortcutting with the plot. So that's kind of my point, is that this movie as well, it has a better plot in a generic sense than Plan 9 from Outer Space because Lord knows there's dialogue explaining what they're doing.
Yeah,
But
I'd say the plot of this movie is very simple. They're on a treasure hunt.
right. But the treasure they find doesn't really hold up for any number of reasons that we'll get into. Yeah.
I think it does. We'll get to that though.
Okay. All right. I want to talk about the cast because this is the other Ed Wood connection. Your legs. I can feel it. Sorry. Cut that. Sorry. So Ed Wood is obviously Ed Wood has a famous connection to old Hollywood. Who's the most famous actor Ed Wood is connected to with his nostalgia for classic movies?
I don't know where you're going with this. Is an actor or someone it was in his films or something?
Oh my God, it's like the guy won an Oscar for playing him. It's half the plot of the movie Ed Wood.
Oh,
Famous actor.
Johnny Depp won an Oscar for that?
No, the one who played the famous actor won an Oscar for it. Dracula?
Oh, Bela Lugosi.
Yes. Ed Wood made friends with Bela Lugosi well after he was done making good movies and put him in movies to make him famous and stuff. And this movie is a microcosm of that effect. Not as famous as Bela Lugosi, but there's a theme here with the cast. So I have a lot of quotes from him coming up, and I want to do an impression of him, but it's hard because I haven't smoked 10,000 packs of cigarettes. The Ross Hagen, who is the leader of the posse, if you will. His name's Court. He kind of talks like this. Like, I can't do it. It's like a normal voice, but like really deep in parts.
It's like a little higher pitched. See, we're gonna get into that cabin. We're gonna find you the treasure, lady, and you're gonna be happy about it.
You need to douse your voice a little more tobacco, but yeah.
Well, your voice wasn't great either. Okay.
I know, I got the gravelly part, and you got the normal part. Right? Yeah, it's like together we're a perfect team. So anyway, Ross Hagen was an actor who,
Rest in peace.
yes, but he was in a bunch of like old TV shows, but he never got famous for being on the TV shows. He always played side characters, guest stars,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, and he became friends with Fred Olen Ray, and Fred Olen Ray's like, "Hey, you're a great cowboy. You can be a cowboy in my movie." This is a theme that keeps recurring in a lot of, well, basically two cast members of this movie. The more old-fashioned type of old Hollywood nepotism is Don Wildsmith, who plays the aggressively, just because she's kind of snippy with people. This movie loves the one-liners and stuff. She's very like mean to people.
She's a Doubting Thomas to because she's partners with the same company of Ross Hagen's The Court.
She's basically Ross Hagen's sidekick in the movie.
She plays Eddie in this film.
Yes. And no Wikipedia page or career notes for Don Wildsmith, but she was married to Fred Olen Ray at the time.
Nice.
It's just classic Hollywood love story. I'll put you in my B movie.
Saves money in casting.
Yeah. And then total outlier in the cast is Jeffrey Combs, who
Very young looking in this movie.
yeah, you never saw From Beyond.
I haven't seen any Jeffrey Combs movies. This is my first one.
Wow.
Wow.
What an introduction. Because From Beyond is awesome. Reanimator is okay. And on DS9, he played the Wayun. It's an alien. It's an like a scheming alien.
Hasn't he played a bunch of Star Trek characters?
Possibly. He's most famous for playing the Wayun. That's the one I've seen. But
Okay.
anyway, he's a very good actor, especially at playing, which is weird because usually he plays weaselly scientists who have an ulterior motive that's insane, or just insane people.
It's kind of the baby face in this movie. He has no ulterior motives.
Yeah, he's like pure of heart.
Pure of science.
For a quick gag that's not funny, ladies love to fuck him. Multiple women fall in love with him.
He's the only somewhat young guy in the movie, and the women that you're referring to are much closer to his age than the two men in the party, other two men in the party.
You're telling me that Michelle Bauer did not want to have sex with Robert Corey? Robert Corey. What a segue. So, Robert Corey is the closest to Bela Lugosi in my hamstrung Ed Wood analogy because he was a horror actor. He had a supporting role, like once again, supporting roles only, but in The Abominable Dr. Phibes, which is a Vincent Price movie I've barely heard of.
Referenced in The Big Sick.
The Phibes movie?
Yeah.
Oh.
Camille Johnny's character is dating the girl that ends up getting sick. And he puts on that film for her, and she says, "Why do you show your dates such bad movies?" But then they make out and I think have sex after it. So
yeah, that happens to me every time I watch a bad movie. So yeah, that's the second Edward connection, which I belabored to death already, which is that Fred Olen Ray loves old Hollywood so much that he just lazily recreates it. So and he gives obviously implied by what I said, but he gave Robert Corey a job on this movie,
Right.
playing the scientist who's like kind of like if Rip Torn or the guy from Hollywood Squares was like also a drunk old guy.
Paul Lind.
Yeah, he's got very like
It's not that flamboyant.
I know, but he's definitely got flamboyant airs. I mean, it's not hilariously flamboyant, but it's definitely like a little bit like, oh, I'm a scientist. Ooh." All right, let's get into it. Wait, okay, sure. I'm kind of going out of order here, but set the tone. Uh, so another Ed Wood connection is the cheap sets. I mean, this movie's arguably is even cheap, looks even cheaper than an Ed Wood movie because at least Ed Wood has like indoors and outdoors. We get a few indoor scenes at the beginning of the movie, but then it's like uh, exterior Griffith Park, interior cave, exterior Griffith Park with some hastily added like not CG, but like graphical interlays and stuff.
I think it was Vasquez Rocks, wasn't it?
No, yeah, it makes more sense. The first part was a little bit more like Griffith Park because
No,
of
I mean,
the trails, but yeah.
I think it's both. Some sort of park. Griffith Park makes sense, I guess. But then I think that when they get out of the cave and encounter the shoddy dinosaurs, I think that's Vasquez Rocks.
So when I watched this movie, did you have a weird sense that like this movie seemed old because it was
Yeah,
shot on such I don't know if it was the film stock or the lighting. It looked like a 70s movie.
I had it placed in 1982 or one. Um, Late 70s could have worked too, but so I did not feel like a movie that was on the cusp of 1990, of the 90s. What was it released? 89, 90, 88?
Yeah, it was 87 or 88. I couldn't find a confirm between the two, but probably 87 production, 88 release, I'm guessing, but yeah. And then okay, we're kind of getting the plot of the movie, but what do you think of that weird opening where it's like this is a true story and they told me it was a true story and
Well, yes, Fred Olen Ray is trying to be funny with his title cards and end cards. Um, and yes, so he he knew going into this that it would be a campy movie,
mhm.
but there's good camp and bad camp.
Well, intentional camp is often the worst kind of camp because it becomes sort of self-aggrandizing, gets kind of stuck in the middle. Like, the thing about Ed Wood was he was trying to make a brilliant Oscar-winning movie, so you get a lot of interesting cinematography, plot changes, characterization. This movie just like, we're having fun. Aren't you having fun?
I think with film, if the director doesn't believe in the project, which I think intentional camp is you don't believe in the project really, you're just, uh, then it's not enjoyable for the viewer.
Yeah, well, if you just I guess comedy applies, but yeah, if comedy is best played as straight, obviously, so the characters still feel the dynamism and the tension. But if you turn to the audience and be like, "Isn't this funny?" or like just start like goofing off on dialogue, which this movie does, it's like it just gets aggravating. Speaking of dialogue, that's my last, I think, Ed Wood connection is that the dialogue is really bad, and I know part of it is to be like intentionally funny, but it comes off so forced and alien. And I don't know if it was just because like I don't know what Fred Olen Ray was thinking with the dialogue. I'll describe it, but we'll get into many examples in a second. But, all right, the movie opens really weird. And honestly, I was almost nostalgic for how weird the beginning was because it got boring later. But the guy's looking for his dog,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go kill my dog." I don't know. He said something mean about the dog while he's looking for it, and then he finds the dog. But negative points for any movie that actually shows a animal being dead. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Cute. It was a cute little can't remember the name of the breed. That's the dogs that George W. Bush had. This little terrier dogs.
We can revisit this later, but the monster effects, you can't really call them effects. They're just like homemade Halloween masks of trolls. They're just nauseatingly uncomfortable to look at, and it was confusing because obviously they didn't lay any plot with that or anything.
Our viewers get that everything in this movie is cheap and crappily made.
So I guess, yeah, it sets the tone. So, okay, it's a technical thing, but what did you think of how they had opening credits like in a TV movie or a TV show where it was like gold letters directed by, and they would show the movie and it's like 15 minutes in before the credits stop? That's kind of weird.
I actually prefer it that way.
But wouldn't you refer to like no credits there?
Well, you have to have some. What movie has no opening credits?
I mean, there's examples, but I can't pull it from memory or whatever. But some artier movies or cheaper movies don't bother with that. But yeah.
But we're gonna have opening credits, I think, because the score in this movie, I don't even know what we're talking about. It's bad synthesizer.
Yeah, it's like noodling on a keyboard by a guy who's not famous. That's pretty much, I don't know, that's how to describe it.
To just sit through that straight and then get to the movie would have been harder. So I think I think you kind of alluded to this. The beginning scene is it might be the best in the movie, kind of, because you don't know what's going on, and the rest of the movie.
Rosie dog's always a critic. All right, keep going.
The rest of the movie is kind of predictable camp, because the beginning has a horror vibe to it, and so they're showing a little of the horror, and then it cuts to credits, and then your mind is kind of like, what's going to happen next? But it keeps getting around credits, so I think it actually builds the suspense because it's taking longer. So I think it actually worked really well in this movie.
Can I consider this movie sort of a diminishing returns thing where it seems the most positive in terms of potential? Once they get in the cave and you realize that this is the whole movie, well, I think it's kind of like falling apart. Right? Yeah,
for even the cave and the scene in the office where the rich woman offers to finance the hunt for jewels, and I swear, I don't know, jumping ahead a little bit, but Ross Hagen in that scene, I swear, there's a couple times the camera cuts to him while the rich woman's talking, and Ross Hagen is trying to hold back a laugh.
Yeah, this movie had that vibe the whole time that like all the characters were having fun and like joking with each other, and it was boring. But so yeah, let's get into it. So I didn't even talk about the rich lady actress because she did not have a Wikipedia page and did not have a colorful anecdote like having sex with the director, as far as I know. So, but she's redheaded, and the sidekick lady is blonde. That's about the characterization.
I thought Eddie had like auburn or red hair too.
Oh, well, when he was under cowboy hat, so I mean, I assumed it was blonde, but I don't know. Yeah.
It's true, she had a cowboy hat that I don't think came off the entire movie.
So let's get into it. Because now my notes are going into plot. So as you were saying, okay, the plot. If the movie's not going to give you the plot in a way that's digestible, it's hard to defend explaining it to later. You know what I mean? But a point is, where am I? Yeah. So rich lady goes to court. Rich lady goes to court in his office. I guess court is a PI. Oh, I just grabbed that. I don't know. Like, treasure hunter for hire, which is not a job that you could put in a newspaper, but
something like that. It's what is their company? Like they have a company that he and Eddie talk about through the movie. So anyway, kind of like Adventure for Hire, which has been in movies before. So I'm not gonna harp on the movie too bad for.
Yeah, but I mean, usually if you're gonna have an adventure for hire, you put him in the jungle, or you can give a context to why they have to go find him in the middle of nowhere, not an office building in Los Angeles or something.
Because he's a ripoff of Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Even he dresses exactly like him,
Yes.
except he wears white instead of brown. Um, so
Yeah.
Indiana Jones for hire.
So the plot gets muddled right away because you see, when those monsters came out of the cave and ate the dog and killed those people in the park, it was really saying is that the Reliar treasure is in the cave. See, because the monsters came out of the cave. Okay, you get it? Fine, good. And then the dialogue does not help because Rich Lady says, "I'm sure you've seen this," and then Court says, "Nah, I haven't read a paper in weeks. We've been on this big case." And they never mention what the big case that was not the movie.
I think he might have been lying because I think business is really slow for the company. And it's all implied.
Yeah, you're kind of. I mean,
She's literally, he's sitting at his desk, kind of working when she walks in, but Eddie is literally sleeping with her cowboy hat on top of her face when she walks in. So,
dog's good for ratings. Okay. So I'm just gonna keep reading dialogue. You can interject as you want, but Rich Lady says, "Of course you're familiar with the Reliar treasure," and then he says, "Yeah, I spent 10 years of my life looking for that fantasy." Okay, thanks, movie. I mean,
it's hard to find. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but the movie doesn't really dwell on the fact he's been looking for 10 years ever again. You know. And then Court knows the rich girl, which is never fully explored either, such as dialogue like, "You're that Chambers girl, aren't you? I remember when you were this high." And she says, "I remember." Okay.
I guess that means she's met him before.
Try to,
That's why she went there.
I guess I'm just laying a general mood of mass confusion in this movie, but yeah. And then Court says, "It doesn't exist. I looked for it. Your father. We all looked for it." And then we're just adding characters who aren't going to be implied in the movie again, like Rich Girl's father.
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, this was weird. So Court agrees to take the job and he wants full expenses to
Yeah.
cover his search. And the rich lady says she's impressed by Court. What the fuck did that mean?
I don't know. They didn't flesh that out. Might have been from what her father did. It's just a guessing game.
Yeah. And then she pulls $3,000 cash out of her purse or wallet or whatever. And she says, "Here's $3,000 for fees and equipment for you, if that's all right with you." I don't know.
Yeah.
Awkwardly phrased. Yep. This whole episode's gonna be like this. And then, okay, weird logic in this movie. He says, "It'll take me a couple hours to grab equipment." Like, couple hours? That seems alternatively kind of too fast and also just weird to say it out loud.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually wrote a script or it was on the fly speaking.
And we get a very fun blackout line where he says, "I'd hate to take advantage of you financially."
Yeah.
So we go to a scene that did not need to be in the movie, but hey, we get a vague celebrity here. Did you recognize Russ Tamblyn?
I did not recognize him, but I figured that was him in the context of the movie because in the cast, if in the opening credits it had the cast.
Sorry. Everyone loves Rosie.
It had the cast and then and a special appearance by Russ Tamblyn or something, something like that in the opening credits. Because he's the map maker.
Yeah. The map, which helped him out so much in that one stretch of cave in the movie.
Just to add the element that's like a the needed fantasy element
Right.
that there is a map.
So of course, Russ Tamlin played one of the most prominent Jets in West Side Story movie, and he was a major character in Twin Peaks, the '80s TV show, which you still have not seen. Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and then he's Amber Tamlin's father. There you go. That's his biggest claim to fame. All right.
You're not gonna talk about his acting in this movie.
I mean, we can talk about it. I was gonna read some of his dumb dialogue, but
Okay, then go ahead, do that, and I'll.
you can interject with your. Someone, I think the rich girl asked him, "Did you injure your leg in that party?" And then Russ Tamlin says, "Yeah, it was a hell of a party. What kind of fucking party breaks your legs? Get help."
You might have been sarcastic. We're gonna critique every line of dialogue in this movie.
We'll get there. I think it's a little less later, but so the court smokes a giant pipe, like a 1800s World Explorer pipe. I just want to point that out.
It might have been another Indiana Jones thing, because I think doesn't Indiana Jones smoke or something?
It's possible. Am I smoking when he's a teacher? Let's see. Let's just skip the ones that aren't that as fun. Well, let's see. Oh yeah, this scene was kind of pointless. because it's kind of like a hangout, which becomes the theme of the movie. Is like, what if my favorite actors hang out and talk for a while? So, yeah, I agree.
Well, Russ Tamlin was instructed to play a version of the that cave is haunted. I tell you, haunted.
He actually told him to do a.
That's what it felt like. I'm not saying it was literally.
Oh,
He wasn't doing a what's his face impression.
Houston.
Oh no, the guy in Rio Bravo, Walter Brennan.
Brandon. Oh, yeah. For some reason I thought he was John Houston's father, but never mind.
Walter Houston's much more austere. Anyways, he's like, all my friends died in the cave, and it ruined my leg. But I'm lucky it's only my leg compared to what happened to them. Don't go in that cave. And that's why I thought it'd be more of a horror movie than it ended up being, because they're like, okay, we're gonna go in the cave anyways.
I mean, there are ostensibly scary monsters and mean people in the movie, and it's sort of just depending on the time of day, whether or not they're scary or not. So we get the map, which does not really come up again in the movie, running theme of this movie, but we go to the foothills of Griffith Park, I'm going to call it, or whatever, and they're waiting to get in. And I just want to point out this dialogue because it's just so alien in its specificity. So rich girl says to court, "Mr. Eastman, who are these guys?" referring to the scientists coming up the hill. And then he says, "Call me Court, honey." And then she says, "Okay, Court, who are these people?" Like, repeat the line?
He really wants to know.
And then the moment that either makes the movie as so bad it's good or ruins it as racist propaganda is because there's a noise in the trunk, and they open the trunk, and a guy named Pedro, who is intoxicated to farty Mexican music, I don't know what to call it. He's there to watch the car. Why is he in the movie? Why? ¿Por qué?
The attempt at humor, and it's very outdated even for 1987 or 8, whenever this was being made. But there were some people did think it's funny to make fun of Mexicans or Latinos that way.
Yeah, it was funny in a like, I can't believe they're actually bothering to do this in this movie. It was almost more inspired than most of the movie, but Jesus Christ,
No, that,
it's terrible.
actually, the opposite of that. It's completely uninspired. Because he would be inspired if they gave him a chance to have some sort of multifacetedness. But that's it. Is a drunken Mexican is going to watch their cars, and then he doesn't appear in the rest of the movie. He could have died.
Yeah, he probably did. R.I.P. Pedro. So they're venturing down the. I'm skipping a lot of my dumb quotes because whatever, but this was weird. So they're walking down a hill to get to where the cave is, and Rich Lady's sort of like walking normally down the hill. Oh yeah, by the way, Jeffrey Combs and the scientist guy, Robert Corey, are in the group now. So exciting. But anyway, she's walking down the hill, and Jeffrey Combs runs out and grabs her and says, "Easy, easy," and like holds her as they both awkwardly walk down the hill. I guess to establish that he's like a caring person or an expert about hiking, but it came off really creepy.
I didn't catch that, but at least it's an attempt to say that they're going on unfamiliar terrain. It's difficult hike / trek or whatever.
And it does give Jeffrey Combs. I didn't think it was good dialogue, but it gave him a moment to quote unquote shine as his new character or whatever. But they go in the cave. This is the kind of we were in. Things happen like walking into a cave. And Rich Lady says it's as black as caviar in here, which I actually thought was pretty good characterization. I mean, it's obviously cartoonish, but
it was so obvious so that Eddie would say caviar, Mr. Mrs. There's so many jokes at her expense about how rich she is, which is fair. I mean, it fits. It's mainly from Eddie. I think Ross Hagen's character, Court, wants money so bad that he's not going to make fun of her, but Eddie's a
lovable scamp, the jokester.
She feels need to be honest about everything.
Yeah.
And she's more kind of get socioeconomic themes in this movie, but I think she's more anti-capitalist in a way than Court is.
I mean, she's still working for money, but
she definitely looks down more on rich people than he does.
Yeah. So they're in the cave. The movie starts getting very like, oh, holy shit, we need some sci-fi or whatever, because they find red markings on the wall, and they're not sure if it's paint or blood, and that felt really clumsily added. Because, I mean, yeah.
So I just not really backing up because it's continuous, but how do you feel about the running joke? Because the person who's most interested in these cave paintings / blood is the professor, and Eddie and Court call him Doc, and he goes, "Ugh, it's Professor." I found this incredibly dumb.
Yeah.
Because the few PhDs I know in my life love being called doctor, because it's like proof that they got their PhD.
Yeah. I think in a better movie they could have explained it better, because in my head it's like he thinks of himself as a lecturer or laboratory scientist and not a field doctor, quote unquote. So, and that kind of fit his character. He's very intellectual. I mean, he's given dumb dialogue, but very like haughty intellectual type. So it didn't bother me, but obviously the repetition of the runner was like, oh, here comes the line. I mean, it was just like it's like, so mixed bag.
I think Olen Ray, and there's probably a screenwriter in this movie. Was it just Olen Ray who did the screenwriting?
I didn't look it up. He might have had help, but it sounds like definitely his idea.
They might have got tired of it too, because they do drop it. They do call him Doc like in the second half of the movie. He just takes it.
The movie seems to love dropping through lines. And then they're talking in the cave. There's a lot of scenes in the cave, but
yep.
And he's talking to he turns to the lady. What's her name? Cowboy?
Eddie.
Sorry, Eddie. Court turns to Eddie and he's like, "This is kind of like New Guinea." They don't explain what that is. I mean, I guess just you're adding backstory that he's an adventurer who goes to Papua New Guinea, I guess. Like,
Yes, I think we already said this in the podcast already. They're trying to establish that they have experience doing what they've been doing before.
but okay.
So it's give this movie a little bit of credit because it's trying to a movie like Indiana Jones would have better dialogue, but it might even show a flashback or something. I don't know, to some sort of action in a previous place or something. But this movie can't afford to do that, so they have to do it through dialogue. So
Yeah.
it does make that's the thing with cheap movies. And I honestly feel for them because you kind of have to do exposition. And exposition is I think most people feel that exposition is the bane of a movie's existence. Um,
Well, yeah, you have to do it in order to separate your character from other characters and stuff. But yeah, it has to be integrated into something that feels interesting to the audience.
Doing things is more interesting,
Yeah.
but sometimes you can't.
So this movie really wants to get into some science fiction things that they don't care about, like because it's something about how they're because they're in a cave away from the sun, it's cold. But because there's so much rocks, it won't get colder. I don't know why they had to explain that. Just so they wouldn't have to use blankets when they sleep or something. I don't know.
It might actually be real science because it's insulated away from the elements, so it's kind of steady. I'm not using this term right, but it's like steady state in there where it's the daytime and the nighttime can't flow into the cave. So,
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't feel like I added anything to the plot, but it's one of those things.
and they are near a volcano, as is shoddily revealed later in the movie.
Oh my God, yes.
So it's probably pretty warm in there.
Okay, let's throw a couple quick things that happen. So they're drinking. Shocking that they're having a drinking party in the middle of their adventure because the whole movie feels like a drinking party. And then
Yep.
they don't have any ice, and Court says, "Let's drink on the rocks anyway," because they're in a cave filled with rocks.
Yeah, I want to jump into the movie and kick them in the nuts, but I couldn't do that. Yeah. That shows why Fred Olen Ray never got a job writing on SNL or any other prominent comedy writing gigs.
Just his own universe of comedy. Yeah. Jeffrey Combs has electronic readers on his glasses.
Yep.
That's not nothing for that. And then
Well, I thought it was weird why they didn't try to make the professor and him seem like uber nerds. They made the professor seem whiny, but then
comic relief. I mean, I feel like there's a bunch of comic relief in this movie that's not relief at all. But yeah.
they gave Jeffrey Combs the text so they can make fun of him for being a super dork nerd, but he and the professor have the exact same credentials and background to help the crew make money from gems.
If you wanted to go in and make this a good movie, I would definitely cut Robert Corey because I mean Jeffrey Combs is a force unto himself. So I mean, well, why? But whatever. And then there's this whole thing. This movie just loves details. It almost makes it charming in retrospect. Because the rich lady was a junior Birdman or something. And Court knows the song too, and they sing the whole song. That was like a fever dream.
Yeah, I didn't really get that. It was something fun to indicate that they were relaxing. Well, because they did. The setup for that was that they were camping for the night, which didn't do very well because they didn't even try to sleep. But I don't know. They relaxed because I'll give a little bit of credit because I mean it's an indication of relaxing that you're singing like that. And that is right around when Kate, whatever you call those terrible cannibals, start attacking.
Yep. We get our first buxom lady to get the men to pay attention to the movie to show up.
Which wasn't really needed because the rich girl's pretty cute too, but
she wasn't gonna take her top off though.
Well, she'd get into her underwear.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
You don't remember the spinning spit on a fire?
Oh, I remember her spitting on the spit. I thought she was just wearing clothes.
She's down in a much more revealing. It looked like undergarments to me, and they're like they put like butter on her butt.
Yeah. We'll get there. But Michelle Bachmann wearing your typical bikini
The ripoff
cave
of
girl outfit.
ripoff of Raquel Welch's famous bikini fur bikini in
Yeah.
10,000 BC.
And I really think they did Michelle Bachmann dirty as a character because she has no dialogue, basically. And the acting is like, oh, she's scared, which makes sense because she's like, doesn't want to live with the cannibal women and the trolls and stuff. But she's always like bouncing uncomfortably. And I was like, I felt bad for her in like a palsy kind of way. It was just,
Another comparison I want to make, because you made all those Merchant Ivory comparison, which was weird, but actually I wasn't related to this movie. But anyways, from what I understand, Fred Olen Ray uses kind of like a Richard Linklater approach, where he has the actors all come on set and lets them have feedback how they want to portray their characters instead of having a fully fleshed out screenplay beforehand and kind of telling them what to do. Apparently, her name's Michelle Bachmann.
oh, I think I'm confusing her with
Minnesota crazy congresswoman.
okay, moving on.
It's Michelle something, I think.
Bauer. Let me look this up.
Yeah, Bauer. You're right, Michelle Bauer. I think 24.
Beep, beep.
Michelle Bauer apparently said she had just watched a National Geographic thing and nonverbal communication some tribe from somewhere did. So that's what some of it is, although some of it is
I feel like
fake sobbing and pointing. I don't know.
caveman from a Saturday morning comic strip or a cartoon or Native American parody or it's very like ugh. Ugh. Oh yeah, so she's smitten with Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs takes responsibility for her because he's a
For
nice
some
guy.
reason, for some reason, he can communicate with her, even though he just uses English. And when other people try using English with her, she doesn't know what's going on. And then he says the exact same thing, and then she gets it. And then it's even called out later in the movie. It's like, I think it's Court says, "How do you do that?" And he's like, "I'll tell you later." And then it never gets, of course, never gets revealed.
Yeah. And then they counter it gets confusing in the most boring way because trolls and later the cannibal women and there's trolls and cannibal women. They're like
Trolls.
well, there's like there's the monster people in the caves and there's the ladies with no headgear on at all.
You're talking about the cannibals, right?
But there's cannibals with like Halloween helmet masky things on.
Right.
And there's regular women with nothing covering their heads.
Cave woman later.
Yes.
Okay.
Gets confusing because
Cave woman and cannibals. Why don't you use those terms?
cave woman, the monsters are
Cave girls are
the monsters with the helmets on are women.
no, they're cannibals.
Cannibals and cave women. Okay, fine. They do overlap. I feel like he reused extras for both or something, but whatever. Okay, moving on. This is getting weird.
I say cavemen wear like the fur and grunt and don't speak, and then the cave girls wear fur and don't speak. That's what I'm calling cave girls. Okay.
Cave people, whatever. Yeah, they're running from the monsters or whatever, and there's stupid dialogue that's like, they were looking at us like we were a supermarket, and then someone else says, like a smorgasbord, and then the rich girl says, like a champagne brunch.
Yep.
And I just wrote awkward fight scene after that. That's pretty much my summary of this movie's action is like, make it stop.
And then they were underprepared because the amount of ammunition they had, and they knew going into it that a cannibal ate a man and his dog, and then they run out of bullets. They, they run out of bullets in the first shootout with the cannibals, and they only kill one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way this movie works, like, why even bother killing them? Because they're not going to kill you. The movie's so gentle, but anyway. So we get to the scene you were talking about, where they put rich girl on the spit with the cannibals, and they put what looked to be rendered fat or butter on the back of her thighs, which did not that seemed to be very scientific in terms of cooking.
Her name's Danae, and I think they make fun of her name at that one point. The rich girl. I didn't think it was upper thigh. I thought it was straight on the butt, but yep, it was. Fred Olen Ray definitely knows going into these things. He doesn't have a strong movie, so he uses TNA.
Yeah, well, I could use a little more TNA and a little less plot and dialogue and science fiction.
There's a decent amount of TNA in this movie, so
yeah, I could use more. I've seen more.
Yes, this was pornography.
So there's this whole thing about how the flashlights are good about scaring the trolls or whatever, and then the flashlights are dying, and then someone's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of iron in this cave, and I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me.
What did the iron do?
The iron in the caves affected the batteries in the flashlights.
Made them turn off more often or something?
Like not function, yes.
Huh. I don't remember that plot point, but okay. Yeah. I don't think that's a thing.
There was a weird, just bad editing / ADR. It wasn't a funny line or anything, but they can't talk with their mouths full. And then the professor goes, "Oh my God," and it's just like recorded wrong. That's not funny, but. And then they find the robot. Why even bother putting the robot in your movie? He looks like shit. Like he looks like a Disneyland robot you didn't turn off. And
I'm getting a phone call.
That's okay. Let me understand. What was I saying? Yeah, so they find this robot, and it's like the robot from Terminator, from RoboCop, the one that falls down the stairs.
It actually is.
Or Robbie the Robot.
It is Robbie the Robot.
God, he looks like shit now.
They used a couple film artifacts that people had access to from previous films.
Well, we'll get into the direct stealing of old footage later, but so yeah, the robot starts fighting the trolls, but you can't even show the robot fighting, probably because it costs too much money. And what do you think about? I mixed feelings. It looked okay, and it's moderately clever that Danae, the rich lady, used a compact from her purse, which just like a giant piece of glass, but whatever, to reflect light and stop the thing. I mean, it felt a little contrived, but it was also the cleverest thing in the movie, probably.
It doesn't make sense if you think about it too much, but it is a reflective surface. But it's not, the surface area is not big enough to take care of the entire blast, the blast size that was coming out of Robbie the Robot. So it wouldn't have worked in.
Yeah, but I mean, what in terms of like taking you out of the movie, was how badly did it affect? Was it were you like that's dumb, or you're like, that's at least different, or
it's actually action. I don't know. So I give it a on the positive side of the events in this movie.
yeah. Oh, there was. So yeah, yeah. I just want to briefly mention. We've hinted at it before, but my fourth Ed Wood connection. There's a famous sequence, but in real life in Glen or Glenda, but also in the Ed Wood movie, where Ed Wood sees stock footage of buffalo running over the plains, and he's like, "This is fantastic!" So he takes it and he puts it into Glen or Glenda with no thought as to why that makes any sense in Glen or Glenda, and I mean, obviously it makes more sense in this movie, but it wasn't very good use of stock footage. Both the never-ending volcano, that's not how volcanoes work. Just a plume of lava in the middle of the middle of the land, and then the dinosaurs from King Kong or whatever the fuck they look like.
Yeah, the dinosaurs are dumber because they actually tried to somewhat integrate them into the plot because there's multiple dinosaur run-ins, but the volcano is still dumb, but it was just setting the scene. That was dumb too, though, because how 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 close it looks when they're looking at it. The next logical thought was, "Oh my God, we're gonna get killed by lava," but apparently the lava is nowhere close to them.
Yeah, physics, the lava would burn someone, but whatever. Uh, so I believe it's the more dialogue. I just want to point out real quick. The professor says to Court, I've studied world history, and I don't know what this is. And then Court says, "You must have missed a day in school, kid, because this is here." It felt like a factual thing, but also really dumbly phrased. But
Uh, Kind of with the Mexican joke, it's an appeal. It's an appeal to the dumb. I think to the trying to appeal to the dumbest members of the audience, where it's yeah, the sort of making fun of smart people.
oh yeah,
Street smarts are better than book smarts type of humor, which is pretty terrible when done well, even. But this is Phantom Empire, so
yeah. And then we get a line of dialogue that creates a big plot hole that did not need to be there because it's just a dumb line. But Eddie says, "Would someone mind telling me what this really are crap is about?" But I mean, she was there when Court got hired, and why is she? It was befuddling. I got very upset when I watched that. You know what I'm talking about?
what was that?
So they mentioned Reliar on when they get out of the cave and they're in the land with the ladies and the dinosaurs.
Hmm.
And then Eddie turns and says, "Can someone explain to me what this whole Reliar thing is?"
Yeah. Well, what? Yeah, it didn't really make clear to the viewer either, because I don't know if Reliar. Well, I guess Reliar is the cave is like a vessel to get to Reliar, and I guess the outdoor area is Reliar.
Right, but I just don't understand why Eddie wouldn't understand what the word Reliar means.
I mean, it's a nonsense word,
Right.
but she should. You're right. She should know it by then because from the beginning they're trying to get to Reliar, fabled lost city,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones ripoff.
So yeah, the lava plume should not exist. That was a big one. Um, yeah, I don't like the sounds Michelle Bauer made when she talked. It's very uncomfortable, like a person choking or learning how to speak English for the first time.
She's literally she was a former Penthouse Pet of the Year. She's there just for eye candy, really.
She speaks English though, just but, be a little better than.
Fred Olen Ray or whoever didn't write any dialogue for her.
And then hey, the listed star of the movie and the woman on the poster bothers to show up. It's Sybil Daning. Do you have any idea who Sybil Daning was before you watched this movie?
No.
I mean, I've seen a lot of her movies. I don't know what else to say other than it's kind of like a more famous Michelle Bauer. She's obviously very well endowed European woman, big boobs, and she will show them in movies and made her a fair amount of a career in Hollywood slash
Europe.
international cinema. Yeah, yeah. But a lot of American movies though, because Americans love it too. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
The whole thing. I guess I'm skipping ahead of the plot a little bit, but it's kind of weird that. So she's an alien.
Or yeah, trans-dimensional woman or something. Yeah.
Her presence is enough to make the K girls obey her, because I don't think there's any hypnotism involved. It's just the bikini clad cave girls all work for her, except for Michelle Bauer's character, who is more helpful to humans who stumble upon
Yeah.
them or something.
They didn't really explain because she comes off as kind of tyrannical because she wears all black and she has a giant sword. And but they don't. The movie does not bother to explain how the machinations of a society that lives in one small part of a desert with dinosaurs and a giant volcano works. Like, there's no like village or town square or
Yeah, no one eats anything the whole movie. Well, I guess except for the cannibal, but
alcohol, but implied or otherwise.
well, I mean, I don't really care about the alcohol. Just what do the people in the cave eat?
I don't know. It was because well, we're gonna get to it, but the big thing that Sybil Danning does is notices that Jeffrey Combs is hot because hello, he's Jeffrey Combs, and then gives him basically a blowjob on that one set they have where it's like 10 feet of metal spaceship. That's like the plot of the movie.
He simulated a blowjob in this movie?
I thought it was a blowjob. It was definitely sex.
Okay.
So we'll go back time a little bit before the BJ in the depths. But my favorite thing in the whole movie, it should have been on the poster, is they tie Court to a car like on a like spread eagle and they start driving it. But since they're driving a car for realsies and it's a cheap movie, they don't want to do anything bad. So the car is driving like 5 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and Court's legit yelling like, "Oh, you bitch! Oh!" like he's being tortured to death. Oh,
Yeah.
couldn't they have cut that at all to make it look more painful? Or
I don't think they had the budget for that.
see, like I mentioned, yes, whatever. Sybil Danning's set looks like they took one Star Wars spaceship, ripped the top of it off, and threw it in the cave. And they're like, "Yeah, this is where Sybil Danning hangs out." Okay,
Too much credit to compared to Star Wars. It looks more like Forbidden Planet or something.
there's also too much credit probably, but not much better movie than this. But oh, and then it's a dumb joke, but it got a mild chuckle out of me, I guess. Jeffrey Combs is tied up in the metal cave or whatever, and he's like, "I think I should go home. I think I left the oven on." It was arguably a nutcake joke also, but it was kind of Jeffrey Combs doing it is a little more charming, but
It was all right. Yeah. This one.
and then this movie's okay, shocking. This movie's lazy. This movie keeps ripping for all of its set pieces and stuff, but Court and the professor are in a cave, not like a cage, whatever you want to call it, with the women. And Court turns to the professor and he's like, "We should just make a run for it and leave." And then the professor's like, "But what if the ladies chase us?" And then Court's like, "Fuck them," and then go. Like, what? You could have saved like 20 minutes of this movie.
What part of the movie do you mean now?
We're getting in the like third
'Cause-
act. Third act. They haven't quite left Sybil Danning land, but pretty much have.
Because that was arguably the biggest plot hole in the movie was they kidnap the three guys, Jeffrey Combs, the professor, and Ross Hagen, the Court. And they take Jeffrey Combs off to have sex with him or whatever, probably help repopulate
Which is not
cave
full.
girls or something.
Yeah.
But then they put the other two guys, Court and the professor, in a cage, and then at some point, Sybil Danning's character comes in to check on them. It's like a tarp, like a brown tarp
Mm-hmm.
in the back of the cage. And then she leaves through the tarp, and then the two guys are like, "We gotta get out of here." And then they go through the same tarp. Why didn't they go through the tarp immediately if they're in a prison cell?
Because they wanted to hang out and see if they get laid. I don't know. I made another note about Michelle Bauer because kept her performance kept changing. It's like she's having an asthma attack, but or something. But
Change just seemed pretty panicky, nonverbal.
I guess I kept coming up with new versions to explain it because it was very strange. But anyway, oh yeah, great moment. They're running or something, and the professor looks down and he sees uh basically a broken branch on the ground, and he's like, "This plant, it's prehistoric."
Is this after or before the dinosaurs?
I think this is well, I think it's after, but also the guys don't interact with the dinosaurs as much as the women. But obviously they didn't bother to give any further explanation what the plant meant. It was just
No,
like
in a better movie, I mean, that's what he's there for, is to tell them what's going on with the. He and Jeffrey Combs' character are meant to explain the science of it all around them.
yeah. Again, it'd be helpful if it was like, in a plot move. But yeah, whatever. Yeah. And then
What I'm just saying is that in a better movie, the idea of the scientists recognizing that they're in a different time through the plants, I think is a somewhat interesting concept. But it's not needed. Honestly, kind of a obviously a very straightforward campy movie that they're aiming for here.
well, that's the thing is like, did this movie really want to be campy? Because I mean, there are campy elements and it's got weird stuff in it, but it's also a very conventional 50s science fiction movie, and it's very odd.
I c From the opening credits on, where it says based on a true story. By true story, I mean someone told me it was a true story or something like that.
Like that's the thing though, is like there are elements like you say of Olen Ray winking to the camera and being silly, but the plot itself does not really bother. It's not a funny plot.
Yeah, it's in between links to the camera plus a quote unquote exciting uh, Indiana Jones type movie.
Yeah. It's all, good conversation, but after the professor says this plant's prehistoric, Court has the clever comeback. Why don't you fill your pockets with seeds and let's get the hell out of here? You can't fight, you can't argue that.
Again, hammering of the head over. The professor and Jeffrey Combs' character are eggheads who get us killed because they don't have the street smarts that we do.
Yeah. We talked about dinosaurs a lot,
Yeah.
but they almost intentionally undercut themselves because they would reuse the same shot they had used with the same noises coming from the dinosaur. It's just bizarre. And then I did like the Stegosaurus a little more than the quote unquote T-Rex who looked like a lizard.
I imagine these were some Asian country cheap renderings.
Yeah, if it was a little old,
It wasn't whatever company Ray Harryhausen used or whatever. It wasn't that nowhere near that quality.
it was yeah, it was definitely inspired, obviously, by
That's what I'm saying. It's a cheap knockoff.
Argonauts and King Kong. Yeah. So, yeah, for any devious people listening to this are curious, and Sybil Danning has her breast exposed in her outfit. You can pretty much see the whole kit and caboodle if you squint close enough. Yeah.
Yep, you already said that.
Yep. It's worth it. Easily the best part of the movie, so it's worth repeating.
No.
Okay.
Maybe not have a podcast.
This movie takes what you can get. So yeah, let's get into the end of the movie, which is predictably haphazard and random. But they find a loose pile of diamonds in the middle of
Yep.
the desert. And most movies would be like, I remember like Holy Grail Indiana Jones, where it's like you find this treasure that would change your life, and you have to give it back because it's like the movie's gonna end. Who gives a shit if you have the Holy Grail or whatever? But this movie, no, they get to stuff their pockets full of diamonds excitedly
Yeah.
before leaving. Who gives a shit if they have diamonds?
Well, they do because it's a money expedition.
I guess, but it's not like changes. You don't see it change their lives on the real world or whatever. But oh yeah, movie really was heading for the goalposts because they find a spaceship that will go through the dimensional portal that Court can fly because he's Indiana Jones or whatever.
I think it's the same transport they took earlier in the movie.
Oh.
Maybe it's the same exact one, but it's the same model. I think it's possible that Sybil Danning's character has a series of them to transport through the caves.
Before we leave the cave, we gotta get to a plot point. Very serious. Make me look like a bigger pervert than normal. Michelle Bauer rescues Jeffrey Combs from Sybil Danning's sex dungeon, and she fights another cave girl. And you had to set this up with plot because there's no way, she loses her top,
Yep.
and she's topless now.
Yep.
And then we get the most awkward line in the movie because she's in the back of the space train bus with Jeffrey Combs, and then and then Court says to Jeffrey Combs, "Can you cover her up? I'm getting distracted." And then they put a jacket on Michelle Bauer.
They hinted out throughout the movie that he's kind of a pervert, even though he and Eddie are romantically, I don't know if they're married or just boyfriend girlfriend, but he comments on other women. I think the Danae as well throughout the movie. Yeah,
It's obviously a mirroring of Fred Olen Ray's career. Not to knock it or anything, but he was married when he was making this movie, and he made a career of oogling other women. So
it's softcore porn you alluded to starting in the 2000s ish.
Yeah, he was doing the acceptable softcore porn before that, but like this movie kind of. Oh yeah, so Sybil Danning sort of gives chase on foot, and the spaceship
Gets through the portal.
Yeah, and they do a running joke we did not comment on because there's so many great running jokes in this movie. You get the 60, I get the 40. I get the 60, you get the 40. They did different versions of that in the movie.
Yeah. They were doing shit like that in the practically silent movies of squabbling over the actual person doing the work versus the person hiring for the work. In action, adventure, science fiction, any of those types of genre
Yeah.
movies.
So anyway, let's get to the end of the movie because Lord knows it's earned it. They escape and the cave blows up.
For some reason, I can't remember why.
There was some explanation. I just can't remember what it was, but
You just need an explosion. Apparently, he had like 3 explosion triggers together to make an explosion, a big explosion out of the cave. One of them got set prematurely before he was filming, so instead of waiting to get another one, he said, "Screw it, we'll just do 2." And so the explosion you see in the film is smaller than it was meant to be.
I actually didn't mind the effect. I mean, it's just an explosion, but yeah.
It's a little too fire keeps going sort of thing, as opposed to just an explosion.
Well, I didn't need an explosion at all anyway because they were leaving the cave. I don't. Why do you have to have a big explosion? But whatever. I guess it's the movie. So
Make it a happier ending that what the cannibals / Sybil Danning can't come after them anymore.
well, that was my problem with the ending. I mean, I have a problem with the whole movie, obviously, but because yeah, the explosion happens. We cut back to Sybil Danning. She's walking through the cave and it's sealed, and then the cave monsters are like, bleh, and she pulls out her sword, just like, bleh. And I was like, I don't really care if she kills the cave monsters because These are not great characters. I would have much preferred if they did the horror movie Freddy Krueger ending, where Sybil Danning gets out of the cave and murders Court or something.
I would have preferred more death in the movie to begin with. I think this would have been better if it was a. I mean, it still would have been cheap, and Fred Olen Ray. There still would have been a lot of lame jokes and stuff in it, but I think it would be better if it was cannibals / Sybil Danning picking people off, and only a couple of them survive. But everyone makes it out of the cave.
Yeah, he did not need to keep the professor alive. No offense, but he's 100 years old. But yeah. But so
Well, especially because
yeah.
the setup early in the movie with our boy Russ Tamblyn was that all of Russ Tamblyn's partners in the cave died, except for him,
Yeah, he must
and even he had a badly busted leg and he needs a homemade cane to walk around with.
yeah.
So it's much more peril going into it than you think.
And also, obviously, the guy with the dog got eaten very easily, and the implied other campers got killed as well. So it's like definitely felt more like a Corman. What was that movie called? You didn't see it. It's a Corman movie about these it's like Inhumanoids or something like that. Monsters on a lake. They just show up and just start killing everyone, and it's like boom, boom, boom. It's like that's that's what this movie felt like for 2 minutes. So let's get into our thoughts. You go first. Reviews or whatever.
And it's in pure production values and coherent plot, yada yada. It's probably the worst movie reviewed so far. But I can't grade it on a common scale because there's the normal scale, which I believe every movie we've covered so far we covered under. But then I feel like I have to use a different so bad it's good scale, because I think that's the only appeal of this movie. So I think, because even like Sex and the Other Man, which was probably the worst movie we reviewed before this, I think it has zero appeal for so bad it's good. But this movie does. So a 10 out of 1, where The Room is 10 for must watch if you're interested in so bad it's good. I'll give this a 7 on that scale.
Wow.
All right, throw out the numbers. I don't want to dilly dally and say maybe it's a 5.5, maybe it's a 5.6. I laughed out loud at the movie, not with the movie, multiple times. So there is an appeal in that regard. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually coming down harsher than you on this movie because I think of it as who's the audience for this film. The movie has, brief moments of trying to be a traditional B science fiction movie. There's no coherency. There's no plausibility. No interesting newness. In fact, it seems like it's stealing from a bunch of little things like the robots and the dinosaurs. And then, as a traditional comedy, like those jokes, that's terrible. No, wouldn't recommend that either. So bad it's good. I mean, the best so bad it's good movies, like they mostly have like an innate charm. Like this likable director was trying and he failed, and so this movie did not have that for me. Also for any perverts out there, there's not enough femaleness to justify this movie's existence. It's oddly restrained, which is bizarre. But and then it's so bad it's a good movie. Like I say, it lacks the sort of lyrical magic of an Ed Wood movie to me, or that's the best example I can think of. So that's the strongest suit, I guess, is you can laugh at it, but it's just so plotting and self-congratulatory on that front that I don't want to reward it so bad it's goodness. So I'll give it a 1.5 out of 10 on the so bad it's good scale to be a 0 on every other good movie scale. This movie is unwatchable. And I just got through it because I'm curious and stuff. But yeah, so yeah, that's about it. So that was a rollicking ride of so many bad lines I had to skip 90% of them down the road. But so hopefully Marcus has something better for next week.
What do I want to watch next week? There's so many good things to choose from. Um, Fine. Podcast I a different podcast I like uh,
Blasphemy.
is recently covered this movie, and it's director I liked everything I've seen of him so far. So let's watch Fitzcarraldo next week. Werner Herzog's Fitzcarraldo. John Tubi.
I'm gonna watch Faith and Empire again and talk about that instead. I'm just kidding. If it's called what it is, the movie about a boat. I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat. See you next time on Twin Bill.